Governor Bill Richardson and a White House delegation arrived in Pyongyang on a U.S. military jet.
Good to see you. How you been?
The White House has sent its top Korea expert, Victor Cha of the NSC, signaling a new willingness by the administration to engage the North Koreans if they reciprocate. Also in the delegation, a special presidential envoy, former Veterans Affairs Secretary Anthony Principe, who is focusing on the return of the Korean War remains.
Mexico Governor Bill Richardson is continuing his diplomatic mission in North Korea, trying to recover the remains of American servicemen killed in the Korean War. In meetings Monday, the North Koreans made a concession on the nuclear issue, saying they're willing to let United Nations nuclear inspectors back into their country immediately and start dismantling their nuclear program. However, the caveat is that they will only do so if the U.S. lets the North Koreans have access to $25 million the Bush administration had frozen in a Chinese bank.
It is a rescue effort facing a deadline of Saturday when North Korea had promised to dismantle its nuclear program. But today, the North told Richardson and the down the reactor until the U.S. shows them the money. What's involved? $25 million the U.S. had frozen but is now released and is working overtime to get back into North Korean hands. When they get the money, the North Koreans said today they will let UN nuclear inspectors back in immediately. The U.S. worries that if North Korea does not dismantle its nuclear reactor this week, the entire agreement could collapse, and with it, any hopes of resolving the nuclear stalemate. The team was successful on another front. They will be able to bring back the remains of at least 6 American servicemen of the more than 8,000 still missing from the Korean War.
This is a very noble humanitarian gesture.
Still, the North Koreans insisted on showing Richardson a symbol of American humanity. The USS Pueblo, a spy ship captured by North Korea in 1968.
This is a vivid example of hostile policies by the U.S.
While touring the ship, they were shown a film denouncing the U.S. Top nuclear negotiator Kim Gae-gwan reached the agreement at their final meeting, a dinner that went well into the night. Members of the American team believe they convinced Pyongyang it would get its frozen bank account when the banks open in a few hours. That's been the hang-up. That promise, coordinated with the U.S. Treasury back in Washington, led Kim to say that they would start dismantling the reactor and let UN nuclear inspectors back in, and that it could be done within 30 days. North Korea will miss the original deadline to do that by Saturday, and U.S. officials won't officially extend the deadline until they see that North Korea is getting started and resuming talks with their neighbors. The agreement will be announced later Wednesday. With a single step, Bill Richardson and the U.S. team completed a passage between two worlds, crossing from the north to the south in the middle of the demilitarized zone. They brought with them 6 small cases, arrayed before them on the North Korea side of the zone. The remains of American servicemen missing since the Korean War. 3 of the boxes contained dog tags that might help in identification.
But just to see our remains, it was very, very emotional. That was the main purpose of our mission.
We're to participate in such a noble mission to bring home the remains of men who 50 years ago went in harm's way, and now they're coming home. And it was really quite moving.
The unusual bipartisan team drove from Pyongyang for 2 hours at breakneck speeds on the North's military highway to the DMZ. After 4 days of tough talks, Richardson and his North Korean counterpart prepared to part at the border. Do you think you made progress here?
Ask him. We made progress. I think the tension is lessened.
The tension here at the DMZ reflects a harsh reality. The United States and North Korea are still at war, a dispute that could be resolved if the nuclear issue is settled.
After 4 days of talks with a U.S. delegation led by New Mexico Governor Bill Richardson, North Korea says it will welcome back United Nations nuclear weapons inspectors into the country within days. North Korea's about-face comes after the U.S. agreed to let the communist North gain access to millions of dollars in funds that had been frozen in a Chinese bank for 18 months.
The North Korean government told us that with that issue resolved, the DPRK would move promptly, within a day after receiving the funds.
The return of International Atomic Energy Agency inspectors who were expelled in 2002 is part of a deal reached in February to give North Korea massive energy aid in return for ending its nuclear weapons program. Richardson said it could be some 30 days before Pyongyang begins shutting down a key nuclear reactor.